This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 309, recorded on May 13th, a Saturday, by the way, our first Saturday kind of live show, 2017. Here at Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios, and have beautiful, very sunny, like 81 today, 81 degrees Fahrenheit. It's Bellevue, Nebraska. In fact, I'm going to get the show done today, and then I'm going to go out and mow the lawn. It's just beautiful out there, gorgeous. Of course, we post a show with world-class show notes out at the AverageGuy.tv. Don't forget, you can join us live on our mobile app, sponsored by LastPass, great friends of the podcast, and a great way to listen to the program on the road. If you're out traveling, it's streaming available there, a great way to listen live. Not today, not on the screen here. Normally, I've got Spreaker up, but not today. But typically, we are broadcasting live on Spreaker as well. I want to thank for their sponsorship. If you want to get those apps, just have them available just in case you're traveling, an emergency on the road. You can get those at Home Gadget Geeks. Again, just all one word, HomeGadgetGeeks.com. Don't forget, we're commercial free now on YouTube. So if you go out and watch the YouTube videos, no more commercials. I've disabled them all, and so that ad experience on YouTube isn't always the best, and they're doing some funky things over there, anyways. And so I just decided to disable all ads. If you do see one, let me know. I kind of want to know. Now, our embedded ads, like the one I just did here, those will stay. Those will continue to stay. But those little pop-ups or the little banner ads from YouTube, they are gone, and we want to thank you for financially supporting the show. For those that do that on Patreon, you can head out to the AverageGuy.tv and click on the Patreon link. We have $1 and $5 plans. Really, you can put on that $1 plan, you can put anything you want in there. We appreciate your sponsorship. We try to keep it as commercial-free as possible, and your sponsorship of us on Patreon helps us to do that as well. Head out to the AverageGuy.tv. Don't forget, we also have the Amazon affiliate link working now at this point. If you want to head out to Home Gadget Geeks, right below Patreon is now the Amazon affiliate link. We're not doing anything like bookmarking or any of those things anymore. That's what got me in trouble the first time. And so just click on the link. If you can remember, go to the AverageGuy.tv, click on the link. It'll pass you through to the Amazon space. We'll get some credit for that. We'll make a few. Some of you have already, and I appreciate that. We're seeing a little bit of that affiliate money coming through. Remember, that's the Tech Scholarship Fund. If you're interested in testing an item around $100 or less, we'll buy that, send it to you. You'll test it, write it, come on the show and talk about it. That worked pretty well when we had the Amazon affiliate link up and running. Before, we'd love to get it going again. Head out to the AverageGuy.tv and click on the Amazon banner. All right. Crazy busy weekend for us, just like everybody else. And my daughter had an honors program on Thursday that I found out about on Wednesday, which so we moved Valerie down. She was scheduled to be on from Liberty. She was scheduled to be on. We'll move her again and move her down. We'll get that figured out. I have one more interview from Infotech, which was really good, and Paul Oliver is going to join us for that as well. I thought I'd play that in. Got a little bit of news and some things to talk about on the backside and some things to highlight, so we'll do that as well. Let's take a second, though. Let's start with this interview with Paul Oliver, and then I'll have some comments on the backside. I'm Jim Collison. We're live from Infotech 2017, I think in our fourth year of broadcasting live from Infotech, and I'm here with Paul Oliver. Paul, I think this is the second or third time maybe we've had you on.
I think the third,
Yeah, so welcome back to Infotech. Hey, let's catch up with you a little bit. Give us a little bit of your background, what you're doing, where you're at, some of those kinds of things, just so folks know who you are.
Right now I'm at Vosaic, which is it's a company out of Lincoln. It's owned by Huddle and Nelnet. And what we're doing is basically Huddle for the classroom. So think of any situation where people will be going through a simulation, like student teaching or nursing school. And what you can do is you can film the interaction of that student and then mark up in real time whether they did something good or maybe a teachable moment. And you can actually type up annotations, hey, you should have done this. And then they can go home and watch their feedback and see exactly what they did and what the feedback was for that moment. It's a great product. So I'm doing that. And my stack right now is .NET and then AWS. So we're using Node and Python and all that fun stuff. So it's good stuff.
Well, and so for folks who don't know, Huddle is sports software, right?
Yes.
Where you can film people batting or throwing or catching or whatever, right? Full football
games, practices, basketball games.
Right.
And then,
so someone films those, moves them to the cloud,
Yes.
They get broken up and some stats and some other things I think get added to them at that point.
Yeah.
For you then, so you're just taking that same model and saying any kind of repeatable skill that I can film and watch and then give feedback on. As I was thinking about this at our church, we, every Sunday we get a video at the end.
Yes.
And it's sent back to the production team and they say, hey, watch your part, or here's what you look like. Have you ever thought about going into the church space and allowing to?
That is an awesome one. No, we haven't thought of that one yet.
Interesting.
It's cool because all kinds of new industries have kind of revealed themselves to us. One thing is aeronautics, going to pilot school. People will go through training simulations and like a mock cockpit.
Yeah.
And they want to, those are long simulations, like 4 hours long. You don't want to watch 4 hours of film to see what you did wrong. So it's great that we can pinpoint, like at the 1 hour and 12-minute mark, you pulled a dial you shouldn't have, and that's why you went into a free fall or whatever.
Oh, what if there were sensors on those dials too that then automatically like create an event, right?
Absolutely.
And so those events would be recorded and you could easily go back and find those events.
I could see this too for speech and debate. If you are in a competition and you want to see moments where you probably had high level of energy or maybe an area where you need to ramp it up, instead of watching the whole thing, you can get right at that. Band competitions.
Is there any analytics on the back or any automated analytics on the back end? Are you guys able to find things in the video? We just interviewed a guy who is using some software that you could put on a doorbell or a video camera that detects movement and can track a car or a dog or a person.
This is great. So we're experimenting with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because when we transcode a video, we actually take those frames and then we can analyze them. And then Amazon has an image recognition service called Recognition, and we can pipe those images to them, and it'll tell you whether that image had a dog in it or cats or people, how many people. And we're like going to wrap up Elasticsearch with it and then hopefully give you more insight. So you can search a video. What was that video that had a dog in it? Be able to search that.
Right.
But it's impressive what's available to you in the cloud.
In security cameras, it's important because you don't want to watch, to your point.
Exactly.
You don't want to watch all that film. Like you want to go back to what were the moments of movement and what were the movement that I was interested in. They got a certain distance from my house or they were right. You want that. You want kind of those smart pieces of data that you don't want to track the, kind of the whole piece going in. So Sighthound is the name of that company that's doing. We asked them, we're going to try and do an interview on Home Gadget Geeks with them, but I thought, wow, really, really cool. Some very cool processes in what you're doing as well. When we think of speech, there are tons of videos that I do. I mean, in a podcasting sense, I could load that video in and you guys could do some analysis on that as well, right? And there might be some moments or to break up some conversation or to figure out when I ask the next question, some of those kinds of things.
So you can also take the audio and transcribe it. And so we are experimenting with that. It's one of those things where we can grab some audio and take the words and then allow you to search it and then maybe even put that at the bottom of the screen or allow you to jump to that point in time where you said, something about, data, and then it will jump to that point in the video.
Yeah, that's great. We I'm using a tool called Auphonic that I can load my audio to, and then it will transcribe it and put some timestamps in it as well. And I'm using the Google translation engine.
Yeah.
What are you guys using for the translation pieces in there? Because that's the hardest part, right?
Yeah.
Understanding, especially apparently I'm hard to understand sometimes because I've put other people and it transcribes it way better than when I'm talking. But what are you guys using to get that transcription?
There's an open source tool for Linux that we're playing with on a VM, and I can't recall the name right now. But we're also looking at Amazon has a service called Lex. And Lex is basically the engine that fires Alexa queries. So when you say, Alexa, what time is the movie playing? It actually takes that speech and converts it to text. And they open that service up to developers too.
That's cool.
So we're going to play with both and see which gives us better results.
Yeah, well, I think we're still a little bit a ways away. I think you would find that that's maybe, I'd say 85% accurate. Is that what you're seeing today for the most part?
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I just think it's going to take time. Machine learning and understanding of natural language is a really, really difficult process. I think if you learn a voice, if the machine can learn the voice, it's much more accurate in the future. And we're not to the point today where we can tons of my voice files in the cloud yet to compare those, right? I mean, how cool would it be when the camera would recognize, oh, that's me, and then I would have an open repository of my voice, my wave, what I make, and it could ping that API and say, okay, this is Jim Collison. He has a voice file in our
Here's
records.
His profile. This is what is
now I'm going to translate based on that. And I know for us podcasters too, and maybe in your space as well, knowing the difference of when you're talking and then when I'm talking, because that's confusing too in a transcript, right?
Absolutely.
It all meshes together, like just right there. You said absolutely in the middle of my sentence, but that's you and not me. You know, the computer's still not really good.
They can't do that. It's just the text of what was said.
Well, that's very, very cool. I'm going to have to follow some of the work that you're doing there, because I think it pertains a lot to what we're doing with media.
Oh, for sure.
And the way we're talking and the way we're doing things. So you're here, which I'm very interested in this, because you're here talking about kind of Amazon skills.
Yes.
And that is and Alexis, well, we have to be careful when we say that, right? Because that starts invoking.
If you have a device at home like an Echo, you probably want to shut it off right now. Or we'll be saying that wake word a lot.
We may try and say just the Amazon device.
We'll try that
as we're going through this. That's been one of the hardest parts about podcasting about those devices is you invoke them. Same thing with that one from Microsoft. Same thing with that one from Google.
Yep.
You can invoke them. And I've been watching a lot of March Madness basketball. It's that time of the year. March Madness is going on here in the U.S. And I've noticed some of the Amazon commercials for the device, and they come out right out and say the wake word, and I'm like, oh, I wonder how many of those they're setting off.
Well, I think they have I think they preload them with ignore this sound clip, because they're not setting them off.
Oh,
in my experience,
that's a great idea.
We do this, so I think I think they were smart about it.
That's good. That's good to know.
So right now I'm like planning this talk, and I've actually uploaded a YouTube video of it. And while I'm recording it at home, that thing is going off constantly behind me. So I had to unplug it. I keep forgetting. Yeah. But at the beginning of the video, I put a disclaimer: please unplug your device. Or I call it Burbexa, which also is a good code word. Then I can say it, and they get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but
I've heard other podcasts where they've given it a nickname of some kind. Yeah. At our house, when we want to talk about her, we call her Lexi.
Oh,
so that's kind of the wake word upstairs, and then we have that other device that starts with an E downstairs, so we just call it the dot. And then we kind of know, and it doesn't set it off.
That's smart
from that standpoint. But you're talking about skill development. I'm interested because I want to develop a skill for podcasters to be able to say, "Hey, device, play Home Gadget Geeks," and it will just automatically go into that skill, and then maybe provide some options. What are you talking about in your session today?
So what we're going to build today is a lot of the skills out there, the tutorials, they're real basic. They're like, hello world, or today's question is, and you have to hand type that in. I wanted to take it up a notch and actually have you talk to a third-party service, and do C#. So I really made it tough on me in a 45-minute session and explain how the Burbexa service works.
Yes.
It's really hard to do. So but I was excited. I actually have been able to pull it off. But what I'm talking about today is we're going to say device, what's the capital of and a country? And I'll actually look up the capital for you and then the population of that country. And we're going to do that start to finish, start with a blank slate and actually code it up in C# and then upload it to AWS Lambda. And it's going to be it's a fun thing to see how easy it is to build one of these skills.
Yeah. Now, it's not hard. Easy for a developer. I'm not a software developer, although I manage them. I don't write code myself. I was an old PL SQL guy, and I can get data out of a database if you put a gun to my head. That's fine. It's been 10 years or so.
Don't use that drop command. That's bad.
That's right. Undo. So why C#? I mean, is it just because that's what you're most familiar with? And then the skill set really, when the skills API or the SDK kind of assumes you've got some development background, even they say anybody can do this.
Yeah,
I think it's a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges of the code itself and why C#?
Sure. C# to prove out that you could do .NET on AWS Lambda. Up until December, actually, you couldn't use any .NET languages on AWS Lambda. It was all Python, Node.js, that sort of thing. But then they announced just a few months ago you could use C#. I wanted to prove out that it could be done, And I know there's a lot of .NET people in Omaha that would be interested in that. Then secondly, if you are going to develop a device skill for Amazon device, you would want to use Node.js probably. That is the most popular one, and that is not something for the faint of heart. Node is a finicky, beast. It's really tough to work with if you don't understand how that code works. So I think it's unfortunate they're saying that anybody could do it. It's not there yet.
Yeah.
They have templates that'll get you like far quickly. Yeah. But when you get into things like playing sound clips and stuff, it's going to be a little bit tough.
Sound clips, and they have some audio templates that they do. They require you put a certain number of actions in, but then I couldn't figure out how to fill in the other actions. Skip ahead, go back. Some of those other actions that they have built in.
Advanced stuff that you're trying to do. Yeah, right? But it can be done, and I haven't actually built a skill that complex yet. I've read documentation and went, wow. But if you have that skill, and if we build this skill, I mean, there's going to be a lot of, it's audio, it's podcasting. It's a perfect medium for it. And being able to just play that podcast without pulling out your iPhone or your Android device, it's just sitting there on the couch and listening to it. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, well, in my case, what I'd love to have is a podcast skill where you can just plug in an RSS feed. So I can, when I subscribe to it on the device, on the Amazon device, I almost said it.
Almost said it.
It'll, I can invoke that podcast and not just play it, but there may be some other skill-like things, questions, contact information. Hey, send a voice message to the podcaster. I'd love to be able to get instant feedback through my Amazon device after the podcast is over. So after I've listened to it on there, she would prompt me to say, do you have any feedback? I'm recording, right? How cool would that be?
That would be awesome.
Right?
Yeah. There's no reason why you couldn't do any of that.
I know.
The audio file could be recorded and then saved in, an S3 bucket, and then you just have like a bucket full of messages that you can go play.
I just need to find an aspiring developer who's willing to, because I think it could even be something, I'm here talking about podcast marketing today. And there's a growing, the point I'm going to make is there's a growing number of podcasters and companies. Gallup is one of those where we take podcasting very seriously now, where that could be a great, great service to them, as well as we are coming up with a Strengths Finder app for Alexa, and we've been thinking about that and testing with that. And I would love to be able to plug in my podcast to that app.
Yes.
Right. So tell me about, you've taken Strengths Finder.
I've taken Strengths Finder.
So do you remember what your number one theme is? What's your number one theme?
Input.
So you could say, hey, Amazon device, tell me more about input. And it would come back and give you some definitions or stuff about you, right? It might know who you are. And
so I read the Strengths-Based Leadership book, and they have each strength, and it tells you tips for how you should interact with people with that strength.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that would be awesome if you build that into the skill to give you tips. Or if you have somebody on your team that has a strength that you're not that familiar with, to give you tips on how you should interact with them. I mean, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
What a cool idea.
What about if you tied your team in? So this is on your desk at work, and you tie your team in, and it would remind you of certain things about your team members.
Yeah.
Or, hey.
And keeping in mind what your strengths are and how you should interact with that person.
Right on.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Think of the machine learning that could be required behind that to tie you to the team and to give you some good advice on the back end. Saying that, cool. Paul, and knowing what you know about skill development, is it really, really hard to get that done? Or
no. It's your hardest thing is just storing that in a database and being able to retrieve it fast. And I've just used DynamoDB, and it wouldn't be hard.
Well, good. Awesome. Well, it's it's in an early stages, cool. And so we're kind of working through that.
I'd love to hear how that goes.
We'll have to keep you posted. In getting ready for this session that you're doing, anything surprise you when we think about skill development and the work that you've done? Anything surprise you in that space?
The biggest thing is I did not expect so many companies to come out with home devices so quickly and around each other, and they're all very similar. And so it's hard to compare all three of them, and I haven't compared them that well. I've just heard things.
So you would be referring to the Google Home, right? And then Microsoft's Cortana, right? And I've been messing around a lot with Cortana, and I think Microsoft has said they're going to try and come out with a SDK that will convert skills, Amazon skills,
I didn't know that. That'd
into
be
Cortana skills.
That's smart. That's smart.
Yeah, and have you done any? Have you looked at the Google infrastructure? Does it have similar availability?
Haven't, other than I've heard that they have troubles with audio. So when they're playing music, it's hard to hear you say their wake word.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah.
But other than that, I've heard it's pretty similar as far as what it can do.
Do you use your device for other things other than development? Are you
Man, I love playing. There's 2 games on there I like to play: Jeopardy, and then there's one called the Magic Door. And my kids, it's like a choose your own adventure, almost like you're trapped and you got to escape. It's awesome.
And so is that multiple choice? You're here. It's kind of like the old days. I remember we would get these on old DOS screens.
Yes.
You know, you're here, Oregon Trail,
like
the early days of Oregon Trail.
It's like one of those MUDs too, like where you'd play those games online where it says pick up key, go to this. But they made it and they have sound effects and you're in a room and it's really cool. So we have no idea what these home devices are going to look like 5 years from now.
Yeah.
This is just infancy. And it's pretty interesting to kind of see us as we figure out what to do with these devices.
Yeah. Paul, are you worried about security at all on those? The other day I was, I had a medical procedure done and I was talking about it, and the next day it showed up in my Facebook feed.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey.
And I think that's Facebook on your phone. They actually do listen on your phone.
They do.
Yes, for sure.
Of course, this is a listening device. Are you worried about security at all on this?
So there was a recent high-profile case where there was a crime that was committed, and I think it was the FBI subpoenaed the Amazon company, asked, hey, can you give us all the audio? And they kind of fought it. They eventually released the audio. And it is interesting. You wonder what are they recording. I run Wireshark just to see what is it actually sending up, and it's encrypted, so it's hard to tell.
Oh, so you can monitor your own feed of what's going up?
Yeah, well, you can see that it's sending stuff. You can't read what it is.
All right.
But it looks like it's only recording. To me, it only looks like it records when you say the wake word.
Okay.
So I feel okay with it.
Yeah.
As long as
I think it needs to record it to be able to send it to your app. Right.
Yes.
That is one of those things, because you get in the Alexa app. I'm sorry, in the device app.
Yes.
Darn it.
When you open your device app, you can play the recordings that it heard, and then you can give it feedback whether it's transcribing you properly.
Yeah.
And it is cool. They're being transparent. They're showing you that they are recording. But so as far as I'm concerned, I'm not too concerned with these home devices as much as I am with my phone, because I do know that there's apps that actually have access to your microphone at all times. And Facebook is notorious for this. They're listening to what you say, and then they're showing you ads about it. And I just think that's icky. I don't like that at all.
No.
So it seems like the home devices are actually the good guys right now.
I think there's equal concerns about all those things and who's listening when and who has access to it. And I wasn't so freaked out by the NSA, a couple of years ago when we were getting, our phones were being listened to, our phone calls and some of those kinds of things. This seems much more intrusive. It seems like it's on all the time.
The microphones are much better too.
Yeah.
Like if you've ever had one of these devices, you can be across the room and just say the word in casual conversation and it's listening.
Yeah.
Whereas my phone probably wouldn't be able to pick that up across the room.
Right.
So.
Well, we have some challenges ahead for us for sure when we think about those devices. Interesting that you're working on that. When you said that earlier, I was like, yes, because I think that's really the future when we think of the way we order products, the way we interact with news. I use the the daily update, where I say play my flash briefing. I say that every morning. I don't know. I couldn't just remember that
that's
here.
Right. It's a little weird word.
Yeah, it is weird, but it's different enough that it doesn't trigger something else, right? And I'll just say, hey, play my flash briefing. Those things are really, really helpful. Like I can say that without having to change the mode of what I'm doing.
Exactly.
Right. And
making breakfast, and you can hear the updates in the background.
We've just put Cortana in the kitchen, and so now that's hooked up, and we're going to be doing some testing with that
I'd love to hear what you find
kind of A/B, like who does what, because certainly, we have found the Amazon device does not search very well, but Cortana, because it's built on top of Bing, it does some amazing searches. From that standpoint.
Absolutely.
And so there's some, and Cortana's productivity is its connectivity to your email, and some of its your productivity and your driving, and some of those things are pretty cool. So I think I just wish I was a little younger so I would get to see the next 50 years, maybe I'll be around that long. But Paul, thank you for taking a few minutes to come by. Always great to catch up with you. When's your session? What time?
1:15. Similar to a certain person that's also given a session at 1:15.
Yes, that's right. So we'll miss that, but at least I got some follow up from you here, and maybe we can touch base about that. So
Excellent.
hang tight. We're going to grab the keynote speaker and bring him in. John will be here shortly. So I'm going to shut the mics off. If you're watching live, we'll be right back. All right. Probably one of my more favorite interviews that day, kind of talking in the sweet spot of, of course, the Amazon devices, Cortana, Google Home, skill set development. We just recently, I'll actually play this through for you. We recently at Gallup, now this is a skill only enabled by, I'm on the developer side of this, so you can't invoke this on your own. But of course, with Gallup StrengthsFinder stuff, and we're toying with a little bit of a Strengths app for it. So if I say Echo, open Strengths.
Welcome to Dawn, your personal Clifton Strengths coach. What would you like to know?
Echo off. So there's
goodbye.
There's a bunch of things we've programmed into that. We're starting to really kind of look and see what's helpful to our business, and I'm kind of hoping to get our podcasts embedded in there. So when someone invokes a strength, a question about it, they'll get an option. Would you like to listen to a podcast about this? And we've built these audio podcasts available on all 34 of our themes twice. We're in season 3, so we've got that available as well. So we're pretty geeked about that. We actually have some, I think we're getting some outside help with that, as well as some folks working on the inside. And so pretty cool, some pretty cool options coming with that as well. Before I let you go, I do a couple things I wanted that came out this week that I kind of want to cover. One, I'll show you here real quick. So you can see Skype there. And one of the cool things, they have this new security bot by MetaCert, which I find kind of interesting. Now there's other ways to do this, but for the average guy from a tech standpoint, what this bot does is it really gives you an opportunity if you have a URL that you are questioning, or a short link that you're questioning. So like, a tiny URL or a bit.ly or any of those, and you really can't see past or behind that link. And that can be kind of key, right? You see these links on the web and you kind of can't see past them. You can drop those links inside, and I'm going to copy and paste this one. They give you an example in this bot. So if you're on the newest version, Windows 10, you're on the newest version of Skype, you need to make sure that's updated as well. And then you can go to this, you can enable this security bot. And they give me an example here, this tinyurl.com. And then, I typically couldn't see what that is. And it links to this example.com. You probably don't want to go to that. I think that's a phishing malware site. But if I put that in the in the message box and hit enter, it goes out and does a query for me, and it says, here's what I found. We're checking this URL. It put it in there. Redirect is to example.com, and it's classified as pornography. And so this security service is using this bot to make that easy. You can throw in regular URLs as well if you want to. I'm going to grab Microsoft's URL. Hopefully they won't come back unclassified, and I'll throw that in. Microsoft.com for the English version, and here's what we found. It's not a redirect, and they're classifying it as technology and computing. That's pretty cool. They're making, now that people are using it, they're making updates to this bot. This is actually one of the most helpful bots that I found yet in Skype. And I don't know, there's 15 or so, maybe more. I haven't counted them. Maybe more, maybe less. But so far, this is the most helpful bot that I found when we think about stuff that the bot can actually do. There's a couple health bots in there when we think about, you can put, I'm feeling these are my symptoms, and it's going to attempt to come back with some diagnosis. Now they'll be very, very clear. They don't replace a doctor. They don't replace a healthcare provider, but some initial, hey, I'm not feeling well like this. What could it be? Some of those bots are pretty cool in there. They have a whole bot section inside of Skype. Let me look at now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Couple games. Maybe 30 bots that are in there now. It actually has one, it's called Your Face, which is kind of interesting. You can enable that, and you can put a picture of your face in, and it's going to tell you, it's going to make a guess. Here, I'll show you that one. That's pretty cool. It's going to make a guess. So there I took a picture of myself and threw it in there, and it came back with, you're a human man. You're about 48.1, which is weird. that was kind of weird. It got me because I'll be 49 this year. I did this back in December, so it got me at 48. You're visually challenged. Well, it's no doubt, right? I have glasses, so that was pretty interesting. And then it says you're putting on a brave face, whatever that means. I did try some other pictures in there just to see what it would do. And so when I put a picture of snow, it said I'm not really in the mood for trains covered in snow. Okay, and then so it's interesting how it makes a run at finding when you can load these pictures. And so some of these bots are pretty interesting, to say the least. It is, and Ken says, we go back to the security bot. He goes, cool bot. Does anyone use a web page that has the same functionality? I don't know. Ken, I'm assuming there are. I just didn't. Sometimes any virus software has this built into it. I know I use Bitdefender, and it's got that kind of built in to make sure that it's checking for me. And I get a little red, I get a little check mark by it that says it's a good site to go to. So it's pretty cool. But you can see the bots here. There are a variety of bots available. You can't read a whole web page. You can bring the web page in here and it will summarize it for you. So if you got a web page that has a whole bunch of text, you can put the URL in there and it will summarize it for you. You might want to check it out. It's interesting. I found these again. We're on the very edge of them being kind of interesting. The security bot was one that I thought, hey, if you're in Skype all the time and you want to check a tiny URL or check a short URL before you go, that may not be a bad way to do it. And so, some good, when we think about bots, we're going to talk, we did secure Veronica Belmont. She will be on with us. And I sent out a newsletter asking you all to be here live that night. That would be awesome to have you here. Let me just scroll down into the schedule section of what we have. And she is coming on now June 8th, and love to have you come. Aaron, by the way, Aaron Lawrence is coming back too, May 25th. Not next week, but the week after. And she's going to have some great tech stuff as well. So you might want to join us for those, getting some more lady podcasters. And we'll be talking about bots with Veronica on June 8th, and I'd love to have you come out to the live show that we will do live. Ryan in the chat room says, did I understand you to say that you have a flash briefing? I knew Dave did. How hard is it to make? So Ryan, I did attempt to make a flash briefing. My material does not really lend itself very well to the flash briefing concept. And I had gone out to develop my own skill. We'd call it Home Gadget Geek skill. Not as easy as it seems. Not as easy for me. Maybe there's a crack developer out there that listens to the show that's doing Amazon skills that would make that kind of easy and could give me the code. I couldn't figure it out very easily. I mentioned before, we're trying that same concept at work, and the skills app that we created for the device, that's that strengths app. I'm hoping they'll embed those audio files as well. We have a little work to do there. So no, it was hard for me to make. I don't think making Amazon skills is average guy stuff. I just don't think it is. They kind of allude to it that it kind of is. I don't necessarily believe it. So I tried and I couldn't get it going. So, but maybe one of you can if you're a listener, and maybe you've got the mojo to put a skill together if you're interested in partnering with me on that to get a Home Gadget Geek skill. What I'd just love to say is, hey, device, play Home Gadget Geeks, or open Home Gadget Geeks, and it would give you the opportunity to play, right from your device. And I've experimented with Cortana and some of those other things. And so I think these assistants are the way to go with a lot of this. I just think eventually we'll be speaking this in our car and some of those kinds of things moving forward. All right, a couple things when we think about Windows announcements this week. I will not try and cover these long play because Windows Weekly and even Rich Hay over at Windows Observer cover them pretty well and in depth. But just a couple things that you want to know along the lines of Microsoft. Of course, they announced new hardware in a Windows 10 and a Surface laptop, also coming with Windows 10 S, which is a slim down. They say it doesn't stand for slimmed or stripped, or security or any of those, but really a Windows Store only version of Windows that will be rolling out here and give folks the opportunity to only download apps out of the store. Of course, that has its inherent problems. And so it's one of those things where you don't have access to any of the apps. And so the good news is Windows 10 S will roll with a free upgrade to Pro. I think that's going to go through the end of the year. And so you can, if you buy a piece of equipment and it's got Windows 10 S, you can, for now, upgrade until the end of 2017 for free. It's going to be a $50, $100 upgrade after that, I think, something along those lines. But really, Windows attempt to get back into the market. I'm not going to talk much more about that. It's been covered. Rich Hay is doing a nice job of covering it on the Windows Observer. And if you haven't been listening to that, you might want to go out and take a peek at it. One of the other apps that I'm interested in watching that became available, I haven't downloaded or tried it or used it yet, but they have a story remix app that's coming in the Windows Insider. It's on the Fast Ring, and it's a replacement for Movie Maker. I used Movie Maker actually to produce these podcasts, and I've been kind of wondering to see where Microsoft is going with the next version of that. And I think it's going to arrive in this latest version. So I've got a VM and a physical box on the inside ring, and we'll search for those here a little bit later today. But Drashnimus says Windows, it's the S stands for store. Yeah, it could. The point of that is that it's just going to be a store only version. So I like S for store. That will work. As well. But some interesting things coming. If you're on Windows 10 and you want to be on the Insider Ring, you don't have to really do anything to sign up for that. Just go in and enable in the settings, enable to go on the Fast Ring. Do not do that to your production box. Do not use that to the box. It literally, we're getting updates about every 5 days, and it does a complete install. And so it's a little messy. I would do that on a separate box on a VM. If you're running Windows 10, you do have access to Hyper-V, and you can do another instance of Windows. You have to have the licensing and some of those other things, but you could go a Fast Ring. You can go a Fast Ring there. So a good way to stay up on all the things that are going on Windows. I'm excited about some of the stuff rolling forward. This would be Threshold 3. Is that right? Am I getting that right? Doesn't sound right. That's not the right word. You guys will help me in the chat room. I'm somehow blanking on the actual Windows term. I should know that, but for you get in these situations where you need to keep talking and you can't necessarily keep thinking. Threshold was another version, but coming up they're on their third version of it, and if you're on the Fast Ring, great way to stay up of everything that's going on. We make it a short show today. I appreciate you guys. A few of you, Drashna and Ken and Ryan, thanks for coming out. Ryan said in chat I'm going to give it a go. Ryan, I'm assuming when you say you're going to give it a go, you're going to kind of look at those Amazon skills. I'd certainly work with you if you're going to do that. Redstone, thank you. No. So Redstone was the key word for the Windows, and Threshold was an older version. So Ryan, if you're interested in helping me out with it, or you want to give it a try, or you want to do some things, we can do that around Home Gadget Geeks. And I can get you access to a few things if needed. Love to give it a try. Just a couple quick reminders. One, if you want to support the show, you can always do that through the Patreon link if you want to do it that way. If you can't remember to click on the Amazon link that we have right underneath it, Patreon is a great way to do it. I want to thank everybody who's out there on Patreon doing that. You guys are fantastic. And I actually thought at one point in time our Patreon support was going to drop off after the stickers. We did stickers for you guys and y'all jumped in really well. And I thought, that's not going to last too long. And you know what? You guys have stayed around. In fact, the support level has stayed current in the right spot. Brian Auer, Paul Braren, Kevin Schoonover. Clarify Your Purpose is the name there. So appreciate your support of that. Justin Simmons, John Biggs, Dennis Pillow, Nathaniel Lindley, Emily Prokop, Mark Robson, Eric Janoski. If I'm pronouncing that right, Eric. Peter Dennert, Jim Shoemaker, M.B. Gilbertson, Dwayne Johnson, Malcolm Lacey, Mike Uyghur, and the North Omaha History Podcast, which is a new podcast I've found here in the Omaha area that I really like. Those guys have stepped up as well. So we appreciate you guys doing that on Patreon, those supporters. If you want to support us, head out to theaverageguy.tv and just click on the Patreon link, and that'll put you in, and you can see $1 to $5, whatever you want to do. We always just appreciate it, and good fun, and it helps. Every little bit helps, and we appreciate what you do there. You can also contact me via email if you want to do that, and I continue surprised at how many came out on a Saturday with a tweet, so you guys must be watching Twitter. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at @JCollison. You can also find the show via email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. Great way to just send me an email if you've got comments, questions, contributions, feedback, whatever you want to do. you might want to send me an email, and I always appreciate it. Don't forget that the AverageGuy.tv platform, web hosting, and media hosting provided by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from those you know and you trust. $10 a month is the plan that gets you in, gets you a great WordPress site, plus all the hosting. If you're thinking about hosting a podcast or you want to do something media-related, Maple Grove Partners is where you want to go. Of course, you know that's Christian. Head out to maplegrovepartners.com. And, of course, don't forget about the mobile app if you'd like to get that downloaded. It's for free, and we thank LastPass for their sponsorship of our mobile app. They continue to be great partners. We're having them back here in the middle of the summer, and we appreciate their sponsorship of the show. Well, normally we are out here every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern. That's 99% of the time. We did a Saturday today, which is very, very interesting. I'm going to let this thing render. I'm going to edit it. I'm going to have some lunch. Then I'm going to post it this afternoon. Guys in the chat room, thanks for coming out. I'll stay around for a few minutes if you have any additional questions. You guys don't. You guys do pretty well. But I'll stay around for a few minutes after this. But join us on most Thursdays, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern at the AverageGuy.tv live. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.